So this is a conversation that I had with Zubin, and we weren't really sure if we were gonna release this because we were kind of just testing out our audios. But we kind of felt like we covered some interesting things, and so we decided to release it publicly. So some of the things that we cover is, I don't know, a lot. Awakening, psychedelics, no self, emptying out of the body, intense emotions, the fullness of everything, meeting each other in San Fran, hanging out, what it was like, how he brought up different parts of my personality. And we also talk about our last dinner that we had together, which we don't really mention in the video that we recorded because I believe it was after that we had this amazing final dinner. And we do talk about the Netflix show Beef quite a bit. I think more the last episode. So if you haven't watched it and you don't want spoilers, then don't listen. This version that I'm posting on YouTube will not mention anything about beef, so feel free to listen to this one. If you want the full version, which is an hour and a half, I believe, then you can get that on Patreon. So hope you enjoy. I think what keeps happening is like you're confronted over and over with these structures that you've lived by in all of these different areas of your life, whether it be food, relationship with your body, intimate relationship, relationship with entertainment, like whatever it is, you're confronted with all of the ways that you like had a path or this way of being with it, and it's just going to keep falling. It's just going to keep melting, and you're constantly left with nothing. It's constantly like, well, I don't know. I actually don't know. My mind is still telling me stuff, but like, actually, I just don't know. And internally, it will just keep stirring up any sense of discomfort that arises from that. Like, constantly seeing that actually nothing's known. And then there can become this point where you actually don't feel anything. It's just complete emptiness. And it's not exactly like this, but that is part of the freedom. You're not controlled in any way. Like there's just complete freedom.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So I had like a teeny tiny round of that again yesterday of like this gets subtler and subtler. So I felt disoriented again, and I felt like I didn't know anything again. And I there was this sense that also it didn't matter and I didn't really care, but there was this subtle panic, and the panic was everything. So even though it was really subtle, like um it's so hard to describe. It's like little ripples, but the ripples feel like waves because that's
Infinite.
all there is. Yeah. Um but I don't know. Yeah, yesterday was kind of really beautiful that it I felt this sense of lost again. Um like kind of directionless, and I have no idea why I do anything. I literally don't.
Mm.
And that's when the mind panics. It's like it panics about anything and everything. But once you ride that wave or just let the wave pass, then you go deeper. You're emptier.
Mm.
You're at rest, you know? There's just rest. You're not really at rest.
It's almost like the wave is going to arise, and you can either try to stand against it and resist it by generating more waves and more thought and more turbulence, or you just allow it to take you. And when it passes, the stillness of the ocean is just there. It's just the nature of it.
Mm.
And it's that resistance that the mind often just kind of instinctually does that generates all the turbulence. And when the resistance drops and you just allow the panic, then it's like you said, it's here and then it's gone, and there's a deeper stillness. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that probably is a good insight as to maybe why it's often after the most intense emotion or the intense energetics of that I walk around like I've just dropped 3 tabs of acid because everything looks like it's brand new. Like
Mm.
it's a real view.
Mm.
And I don't think that's people's instinct to allow that. I think it's people's instincts to resist.
I
And
know.
sometimes it's
It's the
just,
opposite.
yeah, it's the
It's the
opposite.
opposite
Exactly.
what everyone is conditioned, how everyone is conditioned to relate to that stuff.
Mm.
That's why part of the ripples is the conditioning around everything that comes up, which basically is panic, worry, concern, obsessive. Um, but really, it's not coming up for you to believe it. It's like it's just coming up to be cleared out, but it feels horrible.
Ooh, that's really beautifully put. It's not coming up for you to believe it. It's coming up
Yeah.
just to be cleared out. Yeah. And it does feel, from a standpoint of mind, if you're going to make a judgment, it would feel horrible. So it's not pleasant. It's not something that you would typically apply desire to. But if you're going beyond desire and aversion and it's just that, then it's just felt. And you have the
Mm-hmm.
physiologic response. Maybe it's like a contraction. Maybe it's tears. Maybe it's, that the physical aspects of grief or sadness. Um,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
what is
So
it? Mm.
sorry, I keep talking.
No, no. I feel like I'm cutting you off all the time. It's our delay in our audio.
Oh. No, you
Yeah,
go.
that's how it is. Well, I was just gonna say, like, in the old days, if I would allow emotion to surface and just feel it, especially sadness or grief, like maybe I'll watch a movie and I'll feel something very sad. And if I allow myself to really just let go into it, or any kind of grief or sadness or empathy, like strongly felt, like really allow it without resistance or
Mm.
without trying to repress it, it would trigger, more often than not, a week of a depressed mood. Like, it would really shift the overall weather pattern of my brain to something that I considered at the time to be negative. Like, well, this is now I'm depressed. Like, I shouldn't allow myself to feel those things because they rewire my brain in some way, and now I'm just seeing everything through this lens of grief. And I'm realizing
Mm.
now, because now when I do that, I do it routinely. Like, I just allow it unconditionally. It's
Mm.
gone, and I feel
Mm-hmm.
better, and it has no effect on mood. In fact, I'm not sure I can say that I have a mood. Like, the idea of mood implies a continuum over time, and instead it's just like, no, whatever is happening now is whatever it is. That I don't understand what mood is. And
Yeah.
and that's so different. And I wonder now, thinking back on it, whether by allowing some of that emotion, more wanted to come up, but there was just enough perpetual repression that it showed up as this, mood of depression.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Whereas if I had just really gone through all that shadow right there, it would have been very different. But it's hard to know.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think exactly what you described is what starts to really crumble. Only when the sense of self is really dissolving. Otherwise, you're right that it comes back as if it's a mood, as like you can sort of believe the labels that you put onto yourself. Oh, like yeah, the depression is coming back, or like my anxiety, or but here you can't really hold on to things that way. You can't make sense of things that way. So it's just really allowed, like fully allowed to be, and then it goes when it goes. And that's simply all that's happening really.
Yep, that's exactly it. That's exactly it. It's a
Yeah.
there's nobody to hold. There's nobody. Identity almost wants to make itself real by holding on to a pattern of emotion and calling it mood. Calling
Mm,
it depression, calling it anxiety. It's like, well, now it's my depression, my anxiety,
exactly.
my ADD, my OCD, my whatever.
Mm-hmm.
When that's gone, it's just like, this is happening, this is happening, this is happening. And you feel it fully. People have this impression that like more spiritually realized people for some reason they're so even keeled and they don't feel anything. It's like quite the opposite. They feel everything very intensely, but they don't hold it. They don't own it.
Mm,
And
mm-hmm.
it doesn't reify and make real their identity because
Yeah.
they're, yeah.
It's hard to describe though, because in a way I would say that I've been hollowed out, or I'm still being hollowed out, but it feels so empty, but not in the way that the person thinks of as empty. Because
Mm,
the person will think of empty as a bad thing, or like you're missing something, or it's a void. But no, this is absolutely full. So the emptiness in the body just made it so clear that actually there's only fullness, and it's not bound by the body, it's everything. And
mm,
so then emotions or feelings, you can't really, it's a very different felt sense. Because just a couple days ago I was crying, and the tears came like like a stream. It was like one tear after another, and I don't and but I didn't really feel that much in the body because it was so full. Of what? I don't know, but it's just constantly full. It's not like I can't access the body, because I know that I've actually probably processed a great deal of stuff. So I am in touch with the body, but to the point where there is no body anymore. There's just everything. And then there's just a
mm.
stream of tears, and I don't know. I don't know what to make of it. That's just what was happening.
Oh,
It felt weird to me. It didn't feel like tears anymore. It didn't feel like crying. I don't know what was happening.
that is just gorgeous. Mm, yeah.
It's so crazy. It becomes so obvious that I'm going to put this in really simplistic terms. So I wouldn't really say this to everyone, but it's become so obvious that any type of manipulation of the thoughts, feelings, body, anything else is not it. It's impossible, and it's a fool's errand, because all that needs to really happen is this energetic internal death that thinks that it can control the thoughts, emotions, external circumstances.
Mm,
So
mm,
you're just going around in circles trying to fix your thoughts, be more happy, or stay more present, or feel more peace. And yeah, the only death of that energetic sense is going to the deepest, darkest places, which you don't willingly really do, but going to those places that intensified the seeking to begin with, if that makes sense.
Oh, wow.
Because if I think about it, it was the sexual trauma, it was the self-hatred and the shame around that that really propelled the seeking to an extent that I wanted to, yeah, escape myself. And little did I know that no, you could never have escaped yourself. You actually needed to merge completely with yourself in a way.
Mm, mm. That's everything. That last minute of what you said, that's everything in my experience too.
Mm,
That's everything. And
yeah.
when you die into it, you just go, oh, looking here is going to kill me. Yeah, you're right. It is.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
going to kill the identity. And what you said about it's really just about everything else you're doing is rearranging deck chairs in the dream.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to wake up from the dream and see it as a lucid dream and just experience it as it is, you have to die that separate sense of self. The doer or the dreamer has to die so that you see it's just
Mm-hmm.
the dream. And that's all there is.
Exactly.
That's all there is. And if you tell people that directly, like you said, you wouldn't tell everyone that because it just is, that's not what they are ready to hear. There's too much defense and too much obfuscation and
Yeah.
too much mind. But when you are ready for that, I mean, that's
Yeah.
basically what happened here. It's what happened here. It's what happened to Margaret. It was just like, oh, so much pain. Like when you look in the darkest place, and then you realize, oh, but it never was what you thought. It's totally
Yeah.
innocent.